Hello everybody, how are we all? So today I thought we would do a card which is kind of an amalgamation. I am denied as to what to do. So this is an amalgamation of a tent card and a stepper card. So yeah, so this is the card. I've used my travel the world, whatever I called it, digital kit. So that's its side view. So there's your tent bit, and then this is like your stepper bit. And I've actually put this together slightly differently to the one we're going to do today, because I put this together and then was like, oh, there's an easier way of doing that. So, yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be using a hexagon again, just because I like it. I like the look, but obviously you don't have to. You could do square, you could do a circle one, as long as it's got that fold along the top. That is all that matters. But it stands up, it does fold down nice and flat to fit in a envelope for 5x7, but you do have a little bit of chunk there on the end, so just bear that in mind. Yeah, you do have a bit of chunk. It's not too bad though, and obviously got space on the back to write. If you want to put a matte and then a white piece on as well, you can. I thought I'll just leave it clear. I might do a matte and a white on the back when I work out what greeting I want on there. But yeah, so that is the card we are doing today. So I'm actually going to be using papers from a very old kit, and it was called Woodland Walks, I believe, and I'm going to remaster it because during my members live stream someone said they wanted buttercup papers, and the Woodland Walks pack has got buttercup papers in it. However, I looked back on Etsy and it's obviously run out of time, so it's now not available. But I'm going to remaster it, and then I shall make it available as a paper pad as well on Amazon. Right, so you're going to need one piece of base card that is 7 inches, which I believe this one is. Yep, 7 inches by 10.5. So on this one, we're just going to score at 5 inches and at 10 inches. Now, if you've got a 5x7 card blank that you want to use, then you could always just make a little tab that's 1 inch by 7, score it in half at half, and make a little tab so you can stick it on. But I thought I'd just use, you know, normal card. And then we're just going to fold that over there, like that. And then we're going to fold this one over here. So you're basically making a 5x7 card blank that has a little tab on it. Okay, so we're going to put that to one side, and I'll just wipe that under there. Then next up, we need a piece of card that is 7 by 9.5. And on this one, you're literally going to score it every 1.5 inches. So you're going to score it at 1.5, at 3, at 4.5, oh, I know, 4.5, and at 6, at 7.5, and at 9. Okay, and I'm going to fold that in a minute. And then next up you need another piece, and this one is 5. Well, I've done mine 5 3/8, but you could do it 5 1/4. You could do whatever width you want really. I've done mine based off of how big my hexagon is, so that's what I've based mine off of. But the length needs to be 9, okay? And again, you can alter that if you want to, but again, I've done mine based off of what my hexagon is going to end up as. So I'm making a little card blank, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut my hexagon out of this so that I keep the fold and just have the hexagon around the outside. So I'm going to be using that, and I'm going to be using this one, and this one measures, in case you have a similar hexagon, from flat side to flat side, it's about 4.5-ish. And from point to point, it's about 5 1/8, roughly, about 5 1/8. And so what I'm going to do, these are the ones that I used for the mat and then for the pattern, although on this one I'm not using a pattern, I'm just using the mat, but I'll come to those in a moment. So I'm going to grab my die cutting machine, just unroll that like that, and then we're going to take this card blank, and I'm just going to turn it over actually, and this is going to go on so that where the cutting edge is, it just goes above it. And actually one thing I did find out was that where my stitched edge is on this die, that does kind of make it into like a almost like a score line, so just be a bit careful. I'm hoping this isn't going to cut it, but you really do need to make sure that your cut edge is not on below the score line, because if it is, you're going to end up actually cutting your score line, and then you won't have a folded bit. If you want to, you can move it up a bit more. Let me just move this over here. I'm just going to move mine up a tiny bit more, like about there, so the stitching, you can't really see, so the stitching is just above the edge. And then I'm just going to lay that down like that, and I'm going to put a little bit of tape on this side. I'm going to make sure it's only on the outside card, because I know that it's probably going to tear my card if it goes on the inside. Okay, so then as you can see, the flat edge is on this folded bit here, and that is well above. So what I am going to probably need to do is cut another piece of this out of the green, just to make it so it actually fits. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this out, and I want to do it, I would normally do it on the folded edge, but I'm going to need to angle it slightly, because otherwise this roller has to hit that whole edge, and it's a lot for it to hit in one go. Yeah, and you want to cut both layers at the same time. You might find that some of the layers don't completely cut. If that's the case, you can just run it through again, but as long as your card's not too thick, you should be fine. So I think when I cut one of mine out, this bottom edge didn't quite cut, and so I had to go back in and just kind of go over it with some scissors. So you should end up with a hexagonal card base. So the matte hexagon, obviously you've got a nesting die set, it'll just be whatever the next one down is. So this one is 4 1/16 along the flat to flat, and from point to point it's about 4 5/8 roughly. And then for the pattern one, flat side to flat side, it's approximately 3 5/8, and then from point to point it's approximately 4 3/16 roughly. I mean, it doesn't matter too much. So that's that. So I'm going to go ahead now and just quickly stick this onto the front of here. Right, so that's that. So that can go to one side. Let's bring in our one bit of base card that we haven't done yet. So we need to we'll start with this side here, not where the tab is. So we need a mountain, just going to concertina it basically, and then a valley, and then a mountain. I'm going to lay mine out flat each time, and then hopefully I won't get it wonky. And then this last tab again needs to be a valley as well. So you're just mountain valleying your way along. Just going to do that the other way around actually. Like that, put the tab under. There we go. So you should end up with that. That's the right way. So this is going to be the front. It's got mountain, valley, mountain, valley, mountain, valley. Okay, and then if we bring our card blank in, what's going to happen is this bit here is going to stick onto there. Now you can either have your tab on the inside or the outside. I'm going to put mine on the outside like that, because I want this side to be where I write my message and whatever. So I'm just going to, and I'm going to use glue. Should probably use red tape. So just going to put some glue on here, like that. And then I'm going to take my other card, and then we just, because this is the edge without the tab, and we're going to lay that on like that and stick it down and hope that it's nice and straight. You can check, because you can fold it by the tab and then just lay that out and just make sure it's not wonky. So there we go, like that. Okay. So that is like that. Now what we want to do, so that's the side profile of so far. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, where you've just joined this here, you've got a mountain, and then in that valley, this tab here wants to stick onto this side. So it needs to stick, in fact it doesn't need to stick there, it needs to fold under and stick onto this side. So this folds under and then it's going to stick in there like that. So you're making a tent fold. Okay, so as you can see that. So it's going to make, that's the shape you want to make. So here is your tab. The tab is just there. So what I'm going to do is, and in fact you might find it better to stick this one down first. Remember, this is the first time I'm making it using these size pieces, because the way I made that other one I didn't do it this way. So so we're all learning together today. So I'm going to bring this over like that. In fact, I'm going to open it up like that, I think, and then bring this over and fold that down onto there. And you want to make sure, yeah, so you want to make sure that it all folds flat like that. Okay, so you end up with that. Because if you're not careful, if you put this side down too far, then what will happen is this won't stick properly in that crease. So just make sure that you're definitely sticking it in the right place. So that is what you have so far. Okay, so now before we go any further, let's just fold this front piece out of the way. And on here we want to put a matte piece that's 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and a pattern piece that's 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. So they're going to go on there. Now because this is printed out from my printer, I'm going to have to use double-sided tape. Right, so now we need 2 pieces of matte and pattern for these 2 pieces here. So you need 2 pieces of matte that are 1 1/4 by 6 3/4, and 2 pieces of pattern that are 1 inch by 6 1/2. And so these are going to go one on there and one on there, like that. So go ahead and stick those down. And then we need to put this on. So I'm going to start with at the back. So what's going to happen is this bit here is going to stick on the underside of this piece here. And then you've got like a concertina bit, so that's going to stick there. And then this is going to stick on the front. So what I would do is try and take it and put it and make sure it's even left and right. It's nice and central left and right. Also make sure it is where you want it to be along the top and along the bottom. Make sure it's nice and straight. So I reckon about there, I think. Let's have a look. Okay, so you can, I'm actually going to stick the back down first because I find it easier to stick the back down. So I'll hold that in place to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a little mark on here, just so I can kind of see where I need to put my glue. And then I'm going to hold that in place, bring this forward, try and not move that. And then, I'm going to turn the glue rather than the tube. Oh, there we go. And then I'm going to put some glue, or red tape, either is fine, on here. And only go below the pencil line. Like that. And then being very careful not to move it, I'm going to take this and fold that down on top of it. Like that. So that is that stuck onto there. And then we want to bring this in and we want to stick that on the front. So I'm just going to go under here and just make a little mark just there. And then also, actually in fact I can just lift it up because look, I've got this line here which is going to tell me. So I'm just going to do that, and then the only other thing I need to do is just make a mark here somewhere. So I kind of know roughly where we're coming to. And I'm doing it slightly in so that I don't see it. So then we're going to glue along here. Where do I need to stop? About here, I think. It's about here. Yeah, about there. Like that. And then we're going to bring this piece, you need to hold that flat, bring this piece down and stick it down. Now if you're using glue, just be careful you don't use too much, it doesn't splurge out and then stick all your different layers together. So there's it all stuck together like that. So then on the front, what I've got is this came out of the original. This is like a buttercup little frame, and I'm going to put this back in on the one that I'm going to do because I quite like it. And these little wildlife creatures also came on the original, on the old Woodland Walks kit. So again, I'm going to put all these little creatures back in, but I'm also probably going to add some little buttercups in as well. So I'm going to stamp this first to put it on the front, and I also need to cut out a well, you could do a matte and then a white on the back. So that's what I'm going to do. So first of all, let's go ahead and stamp this. Right, let us go ahead, and before we stick that on the front, I'm going to deal with this back section because I don't want to squish my silicone glue whilst putting that on. And then we need a mat, so this needs to be 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I'm going to turn it over and then go ahead and add in our little greeting on the front. Okay, so there you go. So there's your finished card. I just like the fact that it stands up. So originally when I did it, I was thinking, oh, just a normal card blank. But then I was like, no, because it could splay if it's on like a shiny surface. So that's where I thought, right, let me put it on a, you know, make it into more of a tent card. And then that way then it just stands up nicely and doesn't, you know, doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, there you go. And if you wanted to, you could change this. So you could do, I'm thinking like Christmas time, you might want to do a star. In which case, obviously, the point of the star, you'd need to have your fold further down and then just stick another star over the top, like you do with like a card blank. And then there's my round the world one, travel the world paper. Same kind of thing. So it just shows how easily you could do it. So for like Father's Day coming up in June, you could do like a Father's Day card with it. And you've got space on the back to the right, obviously. You could do male card, you could do female card. It could be used for anything. Christmas. It could be quite nice for Christmas. You could do some interesting ones, I guess. Maybe have a Christmas tree as your foldy bit in the middle. Yeah, really could do, there's lots you could do with it. Bye everyone!